How many times did you hit?
I don't know, just a couple. It was when it first started, and then Jimmy went berserk, so.
Welcome to 8MC Investigations. We put out new videos every single week, so make sure you're subscribed with the notifications on if you're a fan of consistent content. I want to give a shout out to all of our members. Thank you so much for your support. We will be putting a lot of extras on our Patreon, so if you're into more of a deep dive into some of these cases, make sure you check us out over there. The link is in the description below. Okay, enough rambling, let's get into it. June 28, 2015. Bonita Springs, Florida. After cutting a family trip to Connecticut short, specifically to see patients the following morning, 46-year-old Dr. Teresa Sievers did not show up to the office on June 29th. She always showed up to the office. This is surveillance from Southwest Florida International Airport. This is the last time Dr. Teresa Sievers was seen alive. When a friend of her husband's went to check on her, he found Teresa lying on the kitchen floor in a pool of blood. There was a hammer lying next to her, and she was cold to the touch. She had been struck 17 times in the head with that hammer. After a failed first marriage, Teresa would marry Mark Sievers in 2003. They would go on to have 2 daughters. Teresa was the breadwinner of the family, with a very successful holistic practice, and Mark actually was her office manager. He was also delegated mostly to a stay-at-home dad status. During the attack, over $40,000 in cash and Mark's extensive gun collection were not touched. So what was the motive? Well, Teresa Sievers did have multiple life insurance policies totaling over $4 million. Could this have been the reason for her murder? Nearly 2 months went by without an arrest. But after receiving some tips on the case, detectives arrested Mark Sievers' childhood friend Curtis Wainwright and Jimmy Rogers in Missouri. If you missed the other interrogations in this case, they are all linked below. This is Curtis Wainwright's first proffer. A proffer is when a suspect attempts to help the investigation by bringing more detail to light and must tell the whole truth. There are no promises in place for a reduced sentence, but that is the goal. You will see some parts clearly cut out. Those were obviously segments that the state attorney did not want to be made public, just a heads up. Also, I don't know if there was an air conditioner going on in that room or what, but the audio was terrible. I did my best. Here is Curtis Wainwright's first proffer meeting. There is a second one coming, so make sure you stay tuned for that. But first, let us have a moment of silence for the victim in this case.
Okay, we are now. Okay. Today's date is January 6th, 2016. This is Assistant State Attorney Hamid Hunter, present in interview room at the courthouse. Also here is Attorney Joe Scanzo. Mr. Scanzo, can you please identify yourself for the recording?
Counsel for the defendant, Joseph Scanzo.
Okay, and Elizabeth Parker. Ms. Parker, can you please identify yourself for the recording?
Counsel for Curtis Wainwright, Elizabeth Parker.
And Mr. Wright is present. Mr. Wright, can you identify yourself for the recording?
Curtis Wainwright.
Okay. Also present is Assistant State Attorney Cynthia Ross. Ms. Ross, can you please identify yourself for the recording?
Cynthia Ross, Assistant State Attorney.
Investigator Anthony Vasquez. Investigator Vasquez, can you identify yourself?
Investigator Anthony Vasquez, State Attorney's Office.
Detective Michael Downs. Detective Downs, can you please identify yourself?
Yeah, Sergeant Mike Downs, Lee County Sheriff's Office.
Sergeant Downs. And Sergeant David Levitt. Sergeant, can you please identify yourself?
Sergeant David Levitt, Lee County Sheriff's Office.
All right. Mr. Wright, we're here today because I received communication from your attorneys that you potentially had some information that you wanted to provide to the state, that you wanted to cooperate with the state and potentially with the detectives with some ongoing investigations. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. The purpose of this meeting, it's called a proffer meeting, okay? And I'll just briefly explain to you what that is. There's also a written document here that I'm going to read to you. This is a kind of a get-to-know-you meeting, okay? The purpose of this meeting is for us to talk. If there's some information that you know that these detectives or even our investigators can go and verify, this is a chance for us to verify that you're telling the truth. This is also your opportunity to learn whether or not we can be trusted, okay? And so this is a get to know you meeting. There are no promises that are going to be made in this meeting. This meeting is non-binding. The one thing that will be binding are the terms of this proffer agreement. And I'm going to read that to you, okay? Understand what I've said so far?
Yes.
All right. I'm going to read this to you in the circuit court, and you have a copy there you can read along with, right?
Yes.
In the circuit court of the 20th Judicial Circuit in and for Lee County, Florida. Criminal action. State of Florida versus Curtis Wayne Wright. Case number 15 CF 674. Mr. Sconzo, do you have a copy? Proffer agreement. Comes now the state of Florida by and through the undersigned assistant state attorney and the defendant Curtis Wayne Wright Jr. along with his undersigned attorney and enter into this proffer agreement upon the following terms and conditions. 1. The defendant has been informed that he has been charged with second-degree murder. The defendant is further advised that he may be charged with additional violations of law arising out of the murder. Do you understand that?
Yes.
All right. 2. The defendant has indicated an interest in cooperating with the state of Florida and law enforcement in this and related cases. As a result, both parties have agreed to meet for this purpose. This meeting will include a proffer of testimony by the defendant. Do you understand that?
Yes.
It is agreed that no statements made by the defendant during this meeting will be used against him in the state's case in chief during any criminal prosecution. However, it is understood and agreed that the state may make derivative use of and may pursue any investigative leads suggested by any statements made by or other information provided by the defendant or his counsel. Do you understand that?
Yes.
It is understood and agreed that the state can use any statements by the defendant during his cross-examination or to impeach the defendant in any trial. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Do you have any questions so far?
No, sir.
It is further understood that the state has made no representations or promises in regard to any meeting or proffer with the defendant except those stated in this agreement. No immunity, either use or transactional, is granted hereby to the defendant. Following this meeting, the state will review and assess the information, if any, provided by the defendant. The state may or may not offer a plea agreement to the defendant following this review. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Do you have any questions at all about anything I've read to you so far?
No, sir.
All right, I'm going to sign this agreement. And there's a line there for you to sign as well as for Ms. Parker to sign.
Can you do it? Yeah.
Okay. All the preliminaries having been done, I'm now going to turn the floor over to, again, you can just tell us whatever you want to tell us, and with the understanding that whatever you tell us, we need to go and verify that it's true. And if we're able to verify that and it's something that we can make use of, then we'll contact your attorneys and determine how to proceed from there. Okay, so the floor is yours, the three of you.
Is there any possibility of getting these taken off?
Sure, that's all do. Okay,
Thank you.
You're good. I'll come to you.
Well, I have a timeline of events that we've come up with together that, if you don't mind, he can refer to if he needs to just kind of keep it in chronological order. That makes sense.
And this is something just understood that he prepared. It's not prepared by other than obviously typed up by our office. It's all out of his mouth. It's nothing that we've added or detracted from.
Okay.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You want to start? From
Yeah.
when we start on the timer to do that.
Yeah, I'm not, I mean, should I just go through the, I guess the timeline through it? You want me to do it that way, or?
Yes. Why don't you do that? And if they have follow-up questions, they can
Yeah, we'll go from there.
Okay. I guess it really started probably about 6 months before the crime. Mark had asked me, he brought it up in a way that it was like that somebody that he knew was having a problem with, and asked me if I knew anybody that, might be interested. I think he actually worded it like taken care of, but I think what he was really talking about was like just having somebody beat up or something like that. Is at least that's what my impression of it was. When I was younger, I knew people that did that kind of thing. So, and Mark knows that. I think that was the reason that he asked me. He just said it was somebody that he knew. He didn't tell me anything about it being him. Or at that point, I told him no, because I don't have anything to do with any of those people anymore. While I've been down there at the house multiple times, and I do a lot of work for them and also for their personally with their computers and things like that.
When you say the house in there, you mean?
I do their tech support and for networking and faxes and all of that stuff. Over the kind of my interactions with the family. When we were planning for the wedding, actually before that, I'm sorry.
And if you could clarify, whose wedding? What wedding?
Yeah, my wedding. I'll get to that.
Okay.
Another thing that had happened prior to all of this kind of happening was that because the health center is under the HIPAA regulations, we had talked multiple times about how to send things when I wasn't there in person, how to communicate securely for sending passwords for the servers, those kinds of things. So that we had talked about that in the past. We talked about a number of different ways, including using cell phones that weren't registered as a way. And in the past, when we did send information, sometimes we sent part of it one way and part a different way, so that nobody would have complete access to everything. I got married May 3rd of last year, and Mark was basically my best man. In the process of planning that, there was, we had gotten together. He had actually sent me money because I in the process of doing the work, I got paid $100 a month for doing support. So there would have been a history of payments made every 6 months or something like that would work out that way. Mark flew in for the wedding. I guess Friday. Is that when is there? Is that right? Friday night.
Thursday night. The wedding was on Saturday?
It was on Sunday.
Sunday. Okay, so
yeah.
Right.
So Friday night, Mark flew into town, into St. Louis, and the first night that he was there, he stayed he has a condo in St. Louis as well. He stayed there cleaning, working on the condo, going through with stuff that was kind of piled up for the last 10 years. The second night, or the second day, everybody came to my house, and we just had a big get together. It was the first time in probably 10 years or so, 15 years that all of of us we've been friends for a long time, that we all kind of got together again. So we spent the day together, and then we had a wedding party. We also all went out that night, and everybody spent the night at our house. During that day, Mark asked me if I could talk to him privately. There was actually a text sent before he flew in that actually told me that he needed to talk to me about something private. I don't remember the exact wording of the text, but it should be. I'm sure that it's documented. I'm sorry.
When you say you're sure that it's documented,
it seems like I saw it in the Discovery or something.
So you're pretty sure that the text you're referring to you've seen in Discovery?
Well,
because you mentioned different phones earlier.
Yeah, no, it was in the Discovery. Mark sent it to me personally. We didn't have any separate phones at that point.
Okay.
So it would have been on my cell phone. I only used one phone.
Can I interrupt for 1 second, just please, on the record? The only Discovery that Mr. Wright has reviewed is a copy of the police report and then his statements that were transcribed. Nothing else.
Okay.
Yeah, it was just the summary.
And aerial photos.
Okay.
That's it.
Just to clarify then, what was the phone number of the phone that he texted you on?
314-996-9581.
Okay. And do you recall the phone number of the phone he was texting you? The phone he would have been using?
No, I don't. But it's the phone number he's had for 20 years. I think it's a St. Louis number, but I think he actually has two numbers that go to the same phone. He has a number from St. Louis still, and then he has one from down here. And I'm pretty sure that their both numbers are connected to that phone. I always dial it out of my address book, so I can't remember what it is.
Okay. All right, so I think I interrupted you when you said he asked to speak to you privately.
Yes. So in the text, he told me that he wanted to, but that night, or early evening, on Saturday, he asked me if I could talk to him. So we went in the bedroom and talked. At that point, he talked about having money issues too. Yeah, he talked to me about that they may have to file bankruptcy and that kind of thing. So it wasn't anything in depth, but he was just letting me know that they were having problems.
Well, let me stop you here for a second, Mr. Wright. And I'm going to be straightforward with you, okay? We've signed this agreement here, and the things that you tell us stay here, okay? I can't use them against you. However, if something you're saying is not correct, and we find out that it's not correct, then we have to do something with that.
Right, I understand.
And so I want to encourage you. I'm concerned that you're not being completely upfront with me. And I want to encourage you to be upfront, because we've signed my word is my bond, and we've signed this agreement, and we've agreed that this is confidential.
Yes.
And so I want you to feel comfortable to be upfront with me.
As this progressed. But
okay.
At that point, he'd just flown in town, and he was just on we all went out that night. Everybody stayed at the house. There's also a third person involved. It's Jimmy Rogers. You guys should be familiar with him. Jimmy was also one of the people that were at the house. So Mark and Jimmy met, I guess, for the first time that day. So as we so we all went out that night, and then the next day was the wedding. We went and got ready. We had our wedding was actually at a park, so that morning was kind of hectic. Everybody trying to get ready and things. I have a friend that owns a little grocery mart, and he let us buy all of the food for the wedding because we had our reception as a big barbecue at the park. It was an all-day event, so he let us buy everything using his account, so that we got everything in wholesale through the restaurant supply. That morning, I went by and picked up the meat on the way to the wedding, and somehow forgot a whole case of meat. So when we got to the wedding, when we started actually getting ready and they were setting up, we realized that we had missed that, and that they were trying to get stuff started before, so it'd be ready after the ceremony. At that point, while we were getting ready, Mark brought up again that they were, at that point we figured out that the meat had gotten forgotten. And Mark and I drove back to, his name's TK is the guy's name. We drove back to TK's, and well, first I called to make sure it was there, and so there would be a record of that phone call.
TK's, what's the name of where is it located, and what's the name of the grocery place?
It's Neighborhood Grocery, and it's in Crystal City, Missouri.
And the proprietor is your friend TK?
Yeah, his name's actually like Tahir or something like that, but he goes by TK. That's what everybody calls him. So, it's Indian, so people have trouble pronouncing his name.
So the two of you.
Mark and I drove back to TK's to pick up that, and while we were alone in the car, he started talking more in depth about what was going on. He told me that, that was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back. We talked about kind of what was, he said that he couldn't let that happen. What he thought was options, and he came straight out and said that he wanted to have her killed. So he asked me if I would help him, if there was either help him do it or help him find somebody to do it. So I asked him what kind of time frame he was looking at. He said ASAP. So something apparently had progressed to the point where it was close to. So didn't talk about exactly when, but said it had to happen really soon. He also said that there were opportunities for it to happen for where she worked at, that she worked late a lot. And then we also talked about actually getting the phones. He decided that was the way that, if we were going to talk, that's how it needed to happen.
When you say getting the phones, you mean...
I'm sorry, getting separate phones. Yeah, throwaway phones. There were there would have been texts that were probably in the log, on my phone log, that would have referred to some of that. I think you even kind of alluded to that at one time when we were talking about, Mark had said something about using the word other in a text to the regular phone to let me know that he was calling on the other phone. That was really kind of the end of that conversation. He went back to come back home, and then he went and got a phone. He told me that he got his phone at Walmart, and that's how he suggested that I get one. He said that they activated it right there, paid cash for it, so there was no record of a phone call being made to activate the phone or anything. One of the things that I kind of left out, which I think everybody's aware of, I don't want to say anything that I'm not absolutely sure of. Okay. So, when I'm sorry, I forgot where we were at.
I think you started to talk about how you went about getting the cell phones. He got his cell phone, and then...
Yeah, so I think, it was right after the wedding, I guess, when he first got back down here. He must have gotten his phone. And then he had texted me multiple times about, have I gotten mine yet, or things like that. At that point, I still wasn't real comfortable with the whole thing. And I delayed getting mine on the, I guess on the 7th. He actually sent his information through the mail. He gave me his phone number through the mail. The mail would have came from the, that's how he sent everything. He also...
Were you able to determine, or do you recall what day that he actually purchased his phone?
I don't, but I got the mail on the 7th, so and the wedding was the 3rd, so it had to have been somewhere.
The 7th of May?
Yeah. Or was the 7th when
The 7th
sent
when...
it, wasn't it? I don't know, we came up with the 7th.
7th was when he mailed you the number to his phone, so that was the text message. So
Yeah.
you either got it on the 6th or the 7th was, I thought, what you believed.
Yeah, I thought that's what we figured out. So the 7th is when I got when I got his phone. I still didn't have a phone at that point, and was still not really sure if I was gonna, go any further with it. On the 17th, I finally got a phone, and I texted him the phone number from that phone to his other phone, so we both had the phone numbers. I did the same thing he told me to do, as I went to Walmart and paid cash and got the phone that way. I would have purchased mine at the Walmart in Benton, Missouri, or Festus, but the more I've thought about it a lot, I'm almost positive it came from. There's only 2 Walmarts anywhere near where I live at, and one's along the way to everything I do, and the other's in a town that we shop in. So,
How do you know it was on the 17th?
Because that's when I texted him the phone and said I just got it. Or I texted him from my phone to his phone, his normal phone, letting him know that I just gotten it, and to check his other phone, because I just sent the message to it from my other phone to his other phone, so that he had the phone number, and then he would have called me. He called me and we talked a little bit. Then I don't remember what the conversation was, but I had Googled like the area codes in different cities. The phone that I had, it was like an LA zip code, like a 901 1, I think is what it was, because that was the first one. It was I think there's like 7 zip codes, or not zip codes, I'm sorry, area codes from LA. So I just picked a city, and LA was the first one that came into my mind. So I don't know that actual phone number. It's possible I might be able to find out what it is, but I don't think so. When he sent me, I programmed it into the phone, his number, and didn't use it for anything else. He was adamant that the phones never got used for anything other than talking to each other.
Are you willing to tell us what happened to the phone, where the phone is, the actual phone that you had?
Well, I can tell you what happened to it.
He'll get to it later on in the.
Okay.
I want to keep them chronologically because it's a lot easier.
Okay.
It makes a little bit more sense.
I believe that Mark's number was an Atlanta number, if I remember, because I think I Googled whatever his number was to see where it came from. And I want to say that it was an Atlanta number. I don't remember what the code was, though. Oh, yeah, and both phones were AT&T. They were both through AT&T. Mine was an AT&T Go phone, which is their paid by the minutes. And I'm almost positive that Mark's was also a Go phone because we both use AT&T as our carriers for our regular phones. Yeah, so at the time when we got our phones, we talked about, what he wanted done, but not necessarily like when. So it was all just soon. He had me look up like aerial views of the office and the house. Said that it could happen either place. He was leaning more towards the office. He gave me the code for the office side door, which is where he said that she comes out of. There's a stairwell that leads down to a side door. He told me where she parked at and where she came out the door. And then right outside the door, there's the air conditioners, which have like barricades around them, and said that that would be a good place to hide because you can't see around it from when they come out. There was also at some point, asked about, what if she doesn't come out by herself? He said that was okay, that it was collateral damage, and it actually would probably help if it wasn't just her. We talked about the house as well. I don't know when their trip out of town got planned. I didn't really know about it until a few weeks, prior to it happening. In the process there, after we got the phones is when I actually talked to Jimmy about it. Jimmy's always talking about how he used to be a hitman, and he'd bragging about his criminal history with mafia stuff and things like that. He was always trying to find ways to make money fast. He was into like these schemes and things like that where he could try to make a bunch of money. When I talked to him about it, I told him that I might know a way that he could make some money if he was interested, and he said he definitely was. I asked him what he was willing to do, and he said anything. So I brought up what Mark wanted to have happen, and he was gung ho about it. So he once I talked to Jimmy and found out that he wanted to do that, is when I actually told Mark that it could be taken care of. They hadn't committed to it prior to that.
And when you say it, you're meaning
to have it killed. At whatever point that the trip was brought up is when he started talking about it happening at the house alibi, because he was out of town at her family's house. He basically said that he would leave it, that he didn't care where, just, so the idea was that if it didn't happen at the house, that it would happen on Monday night after work, when she left work, that she would definitely be working late because it was a Monday, so. When I'm not sure that I don't really know for sure that she was coming back earlier, that he was staying later from the beginning or not. But when he talked to me about it, that's what he told me. So,
you're saying he told you that he was coming later and she was coming
that
earlier?
she'd be coming home alone.
Okay.
He also talked to me about, he told me that they had been talking about getting her concealed carry permit, and that he had delayed that from her having a gun, so that she wouldn't be able to defend herself, or there was no chance of her actually having access to a gun or anything. Mark has a lot of guns, but they're in the safe. Oh, yeah, he also told me, when he let me know that she was coming back early, that the alarm wasn't going to be on and that he'd leave the doors unlocked. He gave me the alarm codes, or the garage door code to open the garage. Told me that the inside door wouldn't be locked, and that the alarm was having problems, which is something he also talked to me about previously. There was some kind of intermittent problem with the alarm where it thought that one of the doors was open sometimes and it wouldn't arm. But he had said that the alarm wouldn't be on, and he gave me the code for the office door and the house door. So do
you remember the codes that he gave you?
Yeah.
You said house door. You mean garage door?
Garage door. Yeah. The house was the address of the Munsters. It's 1313 Mockingbird Lane. That's the only way that I remembered it. So the house was 1313, and I believe that the alarm, or the push button lock at the office on that side door was like 1123. When we talked about the house, he said that if it happened at the house, that when she came home, to make it look like it was a robbery that got interrupted, and that he also had talked about, prior to the trip down there, we had talked about one of the things that I do is I have a friend that does antiques, that I do antiques with him. I do the online auctions for him. And we also got into doing gold and silver, where he's buying like, broken jewelry and things like that, old golden teeth, stuff like that. It was some of it came from auction, some of it came online, buying stuff from eBay and things like that, and then they would get scrapped. So that there was that stuff going on, and his name's Jerry Levinsky. You guys talked to him as well. Jerry also collected like coins, silver dollars, and gold as well. And Mark had started talking to me about some rare coins and things that he had, some rare like silver dollars that were worth a lot of money, and investing in gold and silver and I was kind of above my real understanding of it. I mean, I know the scrap values and things like that, but Jerry and Mark actually talked. I just had Mark talk to Jerry directly about it, and about the values of the coins and what was better for short-term, long-term investments, that kind of thing. So there was, he let me know that there was valuable stuff there at the house, gold, silver, coins, things like that, and that when I talked to back to where I was talking to Jimmy. Jimmy also overheard us talking, because we talked about it the night before the wedding as well, when we were all together. And we had come up, had estimated, that the coins that he had, or one of the coins, was worth like $10,000. We also, when we were talking about doing that, because Mark told me that in order to pay him, we'd have to wait a few months for insurance money. That was another thing that we talked about when we were in the car going to TK's. I forgot that when I was telling you, was along with everything happening, he also told me that there was a lot of life insurance money. I don't know what the amount was, but he said a lot. And that there would be money, things would be taken care of if it happened. We didn't talk about any actual amounts or anything. So when I talked to Jimmy about it, Jimmy's plan was to steal whatever, so it actually was going to actually rob it, but but I was talking about actually taking the $10,000 worth of this stuff that Mark had laying around, and that's how he planned on getting paid. Let's see. Oh, he also told me that while we were on the telephones, on the other phones, he had let me know that he had went out at the house and had tried to figure out what the best way to get into the house was, and had went in the back. His backyard is fenced with a privacy fence, one of those vinyl fences. And he said that he was able to actually climb over the fence, but there was sticker bushes and things back there, and that he went back and trimmed all of that back away from the fence to make it easy to get over it. And one of the corners, I think when we looked at the aerial view, he was talking about if you're facing the house, the back left corner of that fence.
So you're saying he trimmed back the bushes to make it easier for you to...
Yeah, and make sure that there wasn't anybody got scratched or anything like that. I could actually show you on the aerial if you wanted me to.
You want to circle it?
I didn't go back and look at it, but Jimmy did. It would have been.
Actually, not the marker.
Thank you. Been somewhere in that. It said it was in the corner. But it said when he went over the fence, it said he got scratched up. And, so he trimmed all of that back before they went out of town to make sure that it would be easily accessed. He called right before they went out of town and made sure that I had everything I needed, that I had the the codes and the timeline. Told me when she was coming back, like what airline she was coming in on.
What was the time and what was the airline?
I can't remember what the airline was, but we normally fly to Southwest. I actually, I don't remember what the actual airline was coming from up there, but he said that he told me that she'd be getting in at, I thought he said at 11:25. Is what I thought that was the time she was flying in on when I checked it. When I picked Jimmy up that morning, the 27th, I had picked up Jimmy that morning and we drove down here. We drove straight through. We took turns driving, right? And he had brought a backpack and a cooler. I didn't know what was in the backpack at the time, but the cooler just he had some like latex gloves and some tape and things like that in the cooler. When we got down here, it was early. It was Sunday morning. When we came in, we drove. I don't know what that street is, but the street that goes, the main street that goes down to Bonita Beach. We were heading down there, and I pointed out the house to Jimmy, and so when we went by the house, I drove by the house and pointed it out to him, and he said that he wanted to stop and check the house out. So there's an apartment complex that's one street over from their house, which is where we parked at. And then went on the way down. We had talked about the different ways of doing it. Actually, I guess we had talked about it prior to leaving, so Jimmy had seen the aerials of both, and Jimmy had decided that he thought that the house was the best place for it to happen as well, because Mark had said that we go in the house and that way nobody could see anybody. He also said that if somebody were to see me, they would think it was him anyway, so nobody would really pay any attention. I don't know if you've seen the pictures of Mark and I together from the wedding. I don't know if you guys saw any of that, but people get us confused. Even at the funeral, people were coming up and talking to me, and at my wedding, people were congratulating him, and even his mom thought I was him half the time when I walked in the room when we were down. I was not concerned about me being seen coming to the house. But anyway, that morning we got down at, I think it was about 6 o'clock in the morning when we got here. And went, we stopped at the house, went over to, we went over to the house. We parked at the thing and went to the house. And
When you say thing, what do you mean?
At the apartment complex, I'm sorry. Yeah, we parked at the apartment complex and walked over. Mark's suggestion was to have went through the woods between the apartment and the house, go straight across the street. But when we looked at it, it's there's like a, I don't know what you call that. It's like an irrigation area or something. It's got a lot of rocks and a lot of stuff built up in there. And there was a fence that we'd have to go over. So had decided not to do that. And
Do you want to indicate on this photo where you parked your car and what you're talking about in terms of where Mark wanted you to go through?
let's see. Yeah, actually the parking lot's not on this picture. Not that part of it anyway.
Actually, for the record, the first picture you showed us was, I should have done this earlier, was Discovery page 27680. And you're looking at 27644 and is that 27633?
653.
653.
And those are 27684. So you just circled on 27653. What does that indicate?
Okay, where the circle's at is where the car was parked at. And then the route.
And this is on June 28th in the morning.
I'm going to circle the same spot on this one, because this is an easier place for me to show how we went. But
Okay, when you say on this one, which identified by the number?
644.
Why don't you write in the little white space at the bottom what the circle is indicating? So we can remember.
So in this area right here, it's just off of the printout here, but that's where the car was parked at.
Okay, so on 27644, just off the right margin, there's a little circle there that you're indicating is where the car was parked.
Yeah.
Okay.
On 653, you can actually see the parking spot, but it would be harder to actually show how we came into the house. So
Why don't you write?
well, actually, I guess it's kind of a both. Yeah. From park there, like I said, this area that's kind of this area in between the houses, between the apartment complex and this row of houses, there's a fence that runs across here. And like I said, it was kind of built up in here, so it would have been really difficult to go that way, and you'd have to go over somebody's fence in between two houses. So that didn't really work. Just north of the main beach, or where the club, whatever, where the showers and stuff are. Just north of there's some free parking, small lots, and I think it was lot 2 that we were in. That's where the car was parked at. We were at the beach for a while. Decided that because I brought clothes clothes with me. I brought a towel and swimming clothes and things because I had planned, that was part of the trip, was I wanted to go to the beach. So Jimmy also said that he'd never really been anywhere, and that when we were talking about it, we spent a while at the beach. We also took a nap in the car there in that lot. And then later that morning, we went to Walmart. I don't remember what the time was. It was like 11-ish, somewhere in there, for the Walmart trip. And I believe that that overview thing that I read actually showed the time, because I think that was on video. But we went to Walmart. Jimmy bought some swimming trunks and shirt and things. I think it was something he bought for Taylor, which is his girlfriend. And also he bought a pair of shoes. I had the water shoes that I had were old, and I actually bought another pair of water shoes for going back to the beach. While we were there, I don't remember if it was on the way there or on the way back, but we also drove by the office, and I showed him where the office was at, and so he could take a look at how that was laid out as well. And I guess that was when the decision was made for sure that it was going to be the house. So after he'd seen both, we spent more time at the beach. I think we might have went somewhere else in between as well, but we went back to the beach and hit all the beaches in between there and Fort Myers Beach. And we ended up, towards the evening, we were at Fort Myers. We went to, at the pier. We got something to eat there. I can't remember the name of it, but it's like a little bitty place. I think it's like a Mexican, like a taco place or something.
That's on Fort Myers Beach?
Yeah, if you're right at the pier, I think that road kind of makes like a 90-degree turn right there, if I remember right, because you come down and then it turns right there at the corner. If you were going from the pier, if you're going south on, is that 41? Is that the one that runs along all the beaches?
It's not 41, but Estero Boulevard? Is it Estero?
Okay, yeah, I'm not sure the name, but it's the one that runs all the way from Bonita Beach all the way to Fort Myers Beach.
Okay.
But if you're starting there at the pier and you're on that road going south, it was just a couple of buildings down. There's a hotel that has like a bar on the roof of it. And that's actually, we parked in that parking lot right across from there, and that's where the little taco place was at. We parked in there, so we went across, because that hotel you can walk straight through to the beach, and there's a bar down there in that first level too. So we had, I think we had a drink there, and then went onto the beach and walked up and down the beach and went to all the shops there. And Jimmy bought some more like souvenir stuff, I guess it was after we left there is when we actually ate. So we sat there and ate, and then got back in the car, and then we ended up going back to the house. Got back there, I think we parked around 10:30. And then once we were back in the lot there, then we got out of the car, and Jimmy took the same path that we had taken the first time that I marked. I actually was...
You want to see those other?
Yeah, can I see one of those that shows the whole...
there's these two. He's looking at 27653 and 27644.
On 27644, you can see the back of the apartment complex. And what we did was when we left the car, I stayed in this wooded area right here on the back side of the apartment complex. You want me to circle it again, or does it matter?
Yes.
Okay.
You're saying you walked a different path?
No, well, we both walked the same way, but I stopped here. Okay. So from here, it was wooded. I didn't have a clear view of the house between the houses, but I could see everything that was going on. As far as if there was traffic going down the street or anything like that. Jimmy took the exact same path back. We were, he said, I was out of the car because it was hot and I was walking around this whole area in here. I had walked around for a while and actually sat down out there and was kind of watching for him. When we didn't really talk about a whole lot of stuff that at that point when he got back in the car, but he went into the house, and she came home actually earlier than what we thought she was going to be there. I had thought that she wasn't getting off the airplane until close to 11:30, but that's actually when she got home. So I think the airplane actually came in early. Yeah, I can't remember the times, but she got home about a half hour, 20 minutes before she was expected. Jimmy was in the house looking for the stuff that he was going to take when the garage door opened, and he said that it kind of caught him off guard. So when he came back to the car, he was kind of freaked out, and we ended up. He told me that he had to get back to work right away and all of that. So we ended up leaving straight from the house and went back home. All he really told me was that it was taken care of. And I asked him about it. We didn't really talk much all the way back. When we were at the house the first time, when we were both in the house, he had went through some of the tools and things, and there was a hammer that was in the toolbox, and then there's like a freezer, like a chest freezer that's in the garage as well, right by the door. And there was a hammer that was laying on that as well. There was one there as well. After we left, we stopped there was a rest stop on the way back north, and there was a rest stop there. We stopped at the rest stop, and Jimmy threw some stuff in the trash can there. We cleaned the car out actually, and so we both threw stuff away. But I assumed that what he was throwing away was what he was wearing, and whatever else it was. I think that he threw something out the window as well on the way up. I don't know if I think it was a crowbar that he used when he pried the side door open.
I thought you said the side door.
Yeah, I'm sorry that I actually missed that part. But as part of making it look like it was a burglary, the door door on the garage. There's a side door on the garage that leads out into the yard right by the gate, and that door was pried open so that it looked like it had been broken into, but it wasn't locked to begin with.
Can we just for 1 second before you were on the way back? I know when we spoke the first time, you had mentioned something about when you went into garage, how where Jimmy was going to position himself, what he was going to do.
Yeah.
Why don't you at least enlighten them on that?
Yeah, I'm sorry. What had been planned out when we were at the house that morning was that Jimmy was going to wait in the garage for her to come in. There was the garage was a two-car garage, and her car was parked on the right side, which is near this door, and then the garage door going in is actually from the garage to the house is actually in front of where the other car would be parked. So if you're looking into the garage, her car was on the right side, and that side door, and then the door going into the house was kind of on the left side on the back wall. So the idea was that it would be waiting in the garage, and then when she came home, then he would attack her as she went into the house or once she got into the house. The way the house is laid out, that garage door going into the house kind of leads into like a little hallway. There's a couple of like utility closets there and washer and dryers in there, and then that hallway opens up into the kitchen. So, but like I said, he said that, well, and I knew from seeing it, but she came home earlier than what was expected. He wasn't where he was supposed to be. So, like I said, at that point, we didn't talk a whole lot about what happened other than that it was done. I didn't really want to know all the details. We had, after we got back, I dropped him off, and then the next day, we got the phone call from Mark's brother, Scott, my wife and I did, and telling us that he'd been killed. My wife, immediately just jumped in the car and go down there to be with Mark. Because, like I said, Mark and I have been friends since junior high school. So we had run down there. My car was in the shop. She had wrecked it, and my car was in the shop. So I had a rental car that I got on the 24th. This is kind of backtracking again, I'm sorry. But I had rented a car while my car was in the shop that the shop set up the rental on.
The white Hyundai
that was the rental car. Yeah. My car is the Kia that was in the shop. You wouldn't have probably seen any of that. When the day that we got the phone call, we went by the shop to get my car. My car wasn't ready. They said it wasn't going to be ready till the next day. The rental car that I had was due back, and when we called to find out about getting it extended, it was going to cost more because the shop's the one that set up the initial rental. We called around and checked prices. We did it online as well, checking for different pricing. And the first car came from Enterprise Leasing, rental, whatever it is called. Enterprise is where it came from. And because my car wasn't ready and wanted to leave that day, what I did was I took that car back and I picked up a second rental car that we found at a cheaper rate. And then, and it was budget. Is it a budget? Is that where the second car came from? Budget rental? Do you remember?
Do you remember where the place was where you went? Do you remember the city? Second car?
I believe that's... I think it's Kirkwood, but it was right at the corner of Manchester Road and Limburg. It's right there on the corner, and that's kind of an in-between area. I'm not really sure what they consider that town, but it's I'm almost positive now that it was budget. You should have all the receipts for all that stuff. So, but all of that stuff was documented on. I'm sure it was in the discovery as well.
Did they search the car? The second car, is that the car that was searched in Missouri?
Yes, that was the one that was at the house when the search warrant. So that car was taken and searched, and then later the original car was also searched. So. The other thing was when that morning when I went in the house, I had told Jimmy that there were dogs there, and he wanted to be sure how the dogs were going to react with somebody walking in. So when he walked in, the dogs actually just ran up and he petted them and played with the dogs for a minute. They didn't bark or anything, so that was one of the concerns about it being late and at the house. So anyway, when we got back, we left the next day. My wife and I did. We left the same day that Scott called, and we drove. Well, we picked up the car, and then we stopped at the hospital on the way down. Her brother and his wife had just had a baby, so we stopped to see the baby on the way out because it was along the way from where we picked the car up from. And then we left straight from the hospital and drove straight through. Angie did most of the driving. Angie's my wife. The GPS, I have a Garmin GPS that sticks to the dash that's in whatever car that I'm driving. One of the things that I noticed when Jimmy and I drove down, that the Garmin didn't switch time zones when it should have. And so the time was off by an hour on the Garmin. And I had to actually go in and manually set the time so that it was right when we were down here. And so some of the data from the Garmin could be off an hour because I don't know that I changed it right away when we came back through. So there was, like I said, it could be off an hour on the times. Just.
Did Jimmy ever touch the Garmin or do anything with the GPS?
Yeah, Jimmy was kind of working the GPS as well to find like gas stations and things like that. Also, at one point, he synced his phone to the GPS because there was a way to actually make it connect because Jimmy had a smartphone, and there was a way to when you connected to the GPS through the phone that it could do some extra stuff, traffic and for accidents and things like that. So, and I know I read that somewhere in the report that when they did the log on the Garmin, that it had linked to his phone or to his Gmail account, which was on his phone.
When you were in the car with him, did he pull up anything on his phone? Did you research anything on his phone?
Well, yeah, on the way down there, there was aerial shot from Google Maps of both the house and the office and things when we were talking about it on the way down. We had he'd already seen the what it looked like ahead of time, but called it up on his phone. And I think also off and on, I think that phone, the Google Maps that comes up on the phone that shows you the navigation, where you can actually see like the aerial view as you're driving, that was used to like find some of the beaches and things like that. So there should have been things that were on his phone that would have shown, that there was navigation being done, and then also he said to actually see the path from where the car was at, figure out, because it was dark at night. Let's see. So after we got back, we came back down here for the funeral, and while I was down, I actually installed cameras on the house, put in a security and surveillance system on the house while we were down, and then I did some other work in the house, helped with some of the cleanup, and was going to replace the door. And when I looked it up to try to actually get the door, we couldn't find the right kind of door with the right jam. Because when we were down, we stayed at Mark's mom's. While we were down, though, I was helping with the house, and we ended up having to order a door for it, because the way that the block wall, the jam for that works on the blocks, is different from a normal door jam. Excuse me. So after we got back from, Angie and I got back from after the funeral. Yeah, we got back on the 11th of June. While I was in Florida, I actually tried to talk to Mark about what happened a little bit, and he refused to even talk about it at all. He had said that he couldn't allow himself to, I guess, to think about the fact that he was involved in it. He was convinced that if he convinced himself that he had nothing to do with it, then he'd be able to pass a lie detector or something, and he wouldn't allow anything to change that thought pattern. So we didn't talk about it at all while we were in Florida. The other phones, when I skipped that part, I'm sorry. He called right before they left for their trip. Made sure that I knew everything, and then he said he was destroying his phone. He said that to take the SIM card out of it, break the SIM card, throw it away in pieces, and then destroy the phone separately, and then get rid of it in separate places. That way it was completely dismantled. And told me to do the same. Thing. On the way, I had my phone while we were down there, my other phone while I was in Florida. On the way back, thank you. On the way back, Jimmy and I stopped where we got off the highway in Missouri to cut over from Highway 55 over to his house. I can't remember what that exit is, but again, that stuff would have been in the GPS. When we got off the highway there, there's like a car wash that was there, and that's where we stopped at and vacuumed the car out and cleaned all the trash and everything out of the car. That's also where the phone was destroyed at. Mark had said that that's the best way to do it. I did take the SIM card out of it and break it, and then the phone got demolished. Jimmy used a hammer on it to bust the phone up on the concrete, and then it was all thrown away in the trash can right there where the vacuum cleaner was at. I don't know the name of what that little place was. I don't even know that it had a sign. It's one of those self-wash car washes that had the vacuum hose right there outside of it.
Was it part of a gas station or was
No,
it like a
it's just a
standalone?
little standalone thing. It's a little bitty town where we got off to cut across. And again, I could help you find that. I would recognize it if we did it. I just don't know what the name of it is. If we needed more on that. So back to when we got back home. Angie and I got back home on the 11th, and on the 12th when the detectives came to the house and did the search warrant on the house. I had gotten a hold of Jimmy. It was late when I got out. I don't know if I called him that night or if it was the next day, but I got a hold of Jimmy, let him know that they had been at the house, and I told him that I needed to get together with him. We had made plans to get together at it's a bar, Hub's Pub is the name of it. It's in Bonne Terre. And so I met him and Taylor there, and I talked to Jimmy then about what was going on. I had also talked to Taylor about what was said, because I think at that point it was two different times that I talked to them. At that point when we got together, is when I asked Jimmy and I stayed outside in the parking lot for a few minutes when we first got there, and so that I could ask him about it, and I asked him what actually happened, because at that point I still didn't know the details. He had told me that she had caught him off guard, and that he wasn't actually in the garage, that he hid, and it sounded like where he hid at was in that utility closet there in that little walkway. And then as she walked by, he attacked her. He said that she fought back, so I haven't seen any of the reports, but as far as where she was hit at, there would have been hits on both the front and the back, because she turned around. He said that she fought really hard, and that he just kept hitting her, and then she kept moving, and he said that he just kept hitting her until he was sure that she was dead. When I saw, or when I found out, I didn't see the report. When I found out how many times she had been hit, and the description of how that had happened, it bothered me. But he had said that I guess that had happened kind of right there where it opens up into the kitchen, so that the whole thing happened in the kitchen, and in the hallway in the kitchen. He had gotten one of those jumpsuits that he wore. He worked at a mine where he worked around stuff, and he worked with chemicals and things like that. So the outfit, the suit that he had on, was one of the jumpsuits from his work, and he taped up the arms, the arms and the legs. To make sure that there wasn't anything, that he didn't get anything on him, I guess, or to make sure he didn't leave anything behind. So that's what I thought that he threw away when we stopped at the rest stop. I thought that was the stuff that he threw away was what he was wearing. It sounds like he brought it back to Missouri with him, from what I've read in the reports and what Taylor said. I had no idea that stuff was still in the car when we were on our way back. I wouldn't have let it be in the car if I didn't know. But he did say that he used a hammer that was in the house. He carries like a ball peen hammer with him pretty much everywhere he goes, and that's one of the things that in the stories of things that he talked about doing, that was his weapon of choice. That, they called him Jimmy the Hammer. It was kind of a twofold thing from what I understand, but he bragged about using a hammer all the time, to hit people with. After they had searched my house, and I said we got together and I talked to him about it and found out the details of what happened. And the first time when we talked, after you guys were at the house, I didn't know the details of that. I really didn't know what actually had taken place. And then after you guys went to Jimmy's house and talked to him, he had called me, and I had went over there to their house and talked to him, and I had asked him, what kind of questions, that kind of thing, because at that point I already knew what had really happened. And then I guess really didn't hear anything else until I found out that you guys had arrested Jimmy. Actually, his brother called me. Jack is his brother's name. Jack had actually called me to try to find out what happened to Jimmy, because he found out that Jimmy got arrested, and thought that maybe I might know, if it was if he violated his parole or whatever. Jimmy was in prison, in federal prison, and was out on parole when all of this happened. So at that point, I had no idea what actually had happened, why he got arrested. I didn't know if it was something he did or if it had anything to do with this, or until later. Cover everything.
I just have one follow-up question, and then I'll turn it over to you guys. Did Mark Sievers ever tell you, and maybe you said this and I missed it, but did Mark Sievers ever tell you exactly how he wanted killed, meaning with what type of weapon?
He never said anything about a hammer. Initially, when I talked to him, he was talking about shooting her. Their initial conversation was about when she left work. The clinic sits way off the main road, and it's there's really not any traffic around there, and it's out by itself. So that was his suggestion, was that to use a gun and shoot her and whoever was with her, if there was somebody else there. That really wasn't an option for me. So,
Did you and Jimmy bring a gun to Florida?
No. I've got a felony on my record, so and besides, he was on parole, so there was no gun involved. There was nothing brought. I made sure there was nothing in the car that could have gotten in trouble for if we got pulled over.
Do you need to take a break, or are you ready to?
Actually, if I could use the restroom.
That's good.
Would that be okay with that?
We're gonna have there. No,
Is that one?
do we need to check with those guys?
Yeah, we're gonna bring them there.
Okay. It might take you back to the holding cell. We'll find out what they want us to do.
Yeah, well, just hold on.
Actually, if we could, why don't you have, if you want to sign these for us, is it okay if he signs those for us so we can
Do you want me
recognize
to
them?
put them in any, like 1, 2, 3, and 4? Or
No,
just
you
cover
can
them
just
in numbers
initial them, sign them,
and a date.
and date them, and then we'll turn those over to Vasquez so we can copy them and send you copies, and then he'll properly receipt them over to Downs.
Do you want me to initial them or sign them?
Sign and date them for us, please.
The 6th.
January 6th,
Yep.
2016. Oh yeah, 1616.
Can they take it back into their seizure and their, for what they need to do?
Okay, so you're gonna take them back out to the holding cell? Do they need to? Okay. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and take a break. I'll go ahead and pause the recording, Mr. Wright, and I'll get you back there and let you take a restroom break, and we'll restart when you come back.
Awesome, thank you.
All right?
John's got one.
It's 3:12 p.m.
That's okay.
Yes, time's 3:12. Recorder's back on.
It is not recording. I guess before you start asking questions,
Time 3:17 p.m. That's correct.
Time is, yes, thank you. Time is now 3:17 p.m.
I just want to make sure that, not that I guess it really matters much, but this whole thing was really brought to me as that was what this was all about with when Mark talked to me about it. It wasn't an issue of he didn't bring it to me as it was about money. It was he knows how I am. There's in most situations, or in any other situation, of even had anything to do with it at all, or even thought about it. Sorry. So this was really more about me being, I don't even know how to actually say it, but, it was just brought to me as, really, this wasn't just something that was like, hey, do you want to make some money? And really, I didn't really have any plans of getting any of it. Whatever he did was with Jimmy, so I just felt like I needed to say that.
Well, let me go ahead and ask the first question, because it's kind of a big question. From what I've heard, it sounds like you're saying that while Mr. Rogers was killing, you weren't in the house.
I wasn't in the house, but I was there. I mean, it was.
I want you to understand that, and I know if I don't know your two lawyers very well, but I suspect that they've discussed this with you. I know that they have. If you have two guys that come to an area for the purpose of a murder being committed, and One guy provides operational details and information and provides access to a home, and the second guy actually goes and does the killing. That they're both just as guilty of a crime.
I understand.
And so, for purposes of our discussion, even if you're in the house, it doesn't change the nature of the case. You don't have to put yourself outside the house to say that you're not guilty or you're not as guilty. You understand what I'm saying? So if there's any chance whatsoever that you were inside that house when this murder was happening, now's the time to tell us. Again, we have a signed and sealed and delivered agreement here. And so now's the time. What you don't want to happen is for these guys to go back and start poking around and to find out that you were in the house when you weren't. And you see how much they poked around now. And if I know them like I think I know them, they're gonna go and they're gonna want to find out whether or not you're telling the truth. So here's the chance. If you were in that house while the murder was happening, now's the time to tell us. Nothing's gonna happen to you. Like,
I understand.
We can't do anything to you.
No, I wasn't there when she was being killed. Well, I wasn't. I was at the house. I was in the house earlier. And like I said, I walked around over there. I mean, there's no reason for two people to be in there. And then somebody needed to be outside to make sure to be watching anyway. So, in case somebody came home, somebody was outside when he was ready to leave, that kind of thing. So,
how would you have communicated that to them if you did see something?
over the phone. I still had the other phone with us down there. I didn't tear it up until after we got back.
And Mr. Rogers didn't have his own burner phone.
No, he was using his regular phone.
Ms. Ross, did you have any questions? Guys, questions?
You just answered that about the phone. During your trips to and from with the rental cars, how were you paying for gas?
Cash.
Cash?
Yeah. Mark had sent me some money before the trip down there. He had sent me some money. It was money that was the regular money that would have been for the tech support stuff. So it wasn't like he sent me extra money or anything. He had just sent money down there. I believe that something that I read in one of those summaries said that there was an envelope from the medical center that was actually postmarked for later than what it was, for June 1st or something. That's the way Mark sent everything. That would have been what would have been in that envelope would have been the check from them. I think it was like $500. That's what I ended up using. So.
Did you cash out the whole $500, or did you take some in cash and deposit the rest somewhere?
No, I just cashed it.
Where did you cash it?
I think their bank is U.S. Bank. Is where the check was written from. I cashed it at one of those banks. I don't want to know which one.
If you can recall, if there's something, maybe if you can't remember which one, maybe there's a landmark or something nearby.
Yeah, no, it's not that. Because I also have a U.S. Bank account, and I can't be absolutely sure it was even a U.S. Bank check. I mean, that should be something that's easy enough to verify.
Was a check made out to you?
Yeah, it was just made out to me.
And that was the same money that you used at Walmart?
Yes, yeah. So that money is what I used for the trip down. Mark also gave me some money when Angie and I were down for working on the house and putting in the security stuff. So the cost of that second trip was actually paid for as well. But that was for work I did. It wasn't just money handed to me.
How much did he give you?
I think it was like $300. It wasn't much, but that covered, like you said, for working on the house is what it was for.
Was that cash or check?
Cash.
Did anybody see him give you the money?
I don't know. I don't think so. I think he gave it to me when we were like, I don't know. It may have been when we were in the car when I was trying to talk to him. It might be when he gave it to me, or right before we left. I worked on the house the last couple of days we were down there, so. At one point, like when we first got down there, everything was pretty chaotic. Angie and I ended up staying in a hotel the first night we were down there and stuff. So he knew that we needed money, and that it cost a couple $100 to drive down. So.
Other than the 2 area codes provided, is there any other physical evidence you can think of?
There should have been video at the apartment complex, I would think. There was a camera that was there by the pool that faced the parking lot. I remember seeing. At some point while we were down there, Jimmy had bought a I don't know what you call those, a license plate, like a souvenir plate. I don't even remember what it was, but some kind of because down here you guys only have one license plate, but Missouri's got 2 plates, and so that plate was stuck on over the top of the other plate, or in place of the front plate on the car, and I actually didn't realize that he had done it. And, I think when we stopped for gas on the way back, I noticed it and took it off. Put the regular plate back on it. Like I said, I didn't want any reason to get pulled over. I don't remember if I changed it at the gas station or at the rest stop, but at some point I walked around the front of the car and saw it. So,
Why did he do that?
I guess to make it look more like a Florida car.
Did you or Mr. Rogers take anything from the house the first time you were in the house?
No, there was nothing. I didn't. I'm sure. Well, I can't be sure that he didn't pick something up, but if he did, I didn't know about it. And if it was, it had to have been something that fit in his pocket. So
When he returned,
I know he went through the drawers and things like that. So
when he returned out of the house the second time, I think you said he had a hammer in his hand.
no, he didn't have a hammer in his hand. He had his backpack that he took with him over there. He also had when he came back. So, if there was something in the backpack, I don't know. The backpack got put in the trunk of the car, and then, like I said, when we stopped, he threw stuff away. I actually thought he threw everything away, but obviously he didn't.
How was Jimmy dressed when he exited the house?
in his regular clothes. I don't remember what he was wearing, but it wasn't the suit, if that's what you're asking.
When you guys went into the Walmart, do you remember the items that you bought? You made a call. You made quite a few purchases when you were there.
I know I bought some water shoes. I think that's where I got them at. Jimmy bought a pair of shoes. The shoes that he had on, they were some kind of like, I don't know if they were shoes that he worked in or they were dress shoes or something, but it was something expensive. The way I gathered it, and he wanted something that he could wear while we were running around down there. And like I said, there's some towels. And pretty much everything that we got was really, other than his pair of shoes, but I guess that kind of counts, was really for the beach. We bought 2 towels, and so I think he bought something for Taylor, a shirt or something.
What about the other items, the trash bags, lock pick set, and all that?
Well, I don't know anything about a lock pit set. I wouldn't even have known that Walmart sold a lock pit pick, but I don't know that. I don't remember any tools being bought. There were trash bags, but again, when you go to the beach, I always put stuff in trash bags when we're done to keep from getting sand all over everything. So I didn't think anything about the trash bags. They were just like kitchen trash bags. They were plastic bags.
Did you have a toolbox in the back of your?
Yeah. I never traveled anywhere without a toolbox. So it was a small plastic box with just wrenches and screwdrivers and stuff like that in it, just in case something happened. Not generally handy. I can fix most things. If we had car trouble, that was the idea. I've been doing that for a long time. I always keep a little toolbox in my car.
You spoke of earlier about Mark talking about his rare coins of value. You know anything about that?
As far as
were they taken?
Oh,
if Jimmy ever took any?
I don't know. That was how Jimmy was planning on getting paid. So I don't know if they were taken or not. I know Mark said that there was nothing taken from the house in the report that I read. So, but again, I don't know that would have gotten reported because it probably wasn't something that was insured or that he would have wanted. I mean, Mark's one of those people that he doesn't put stuff in the bank unless he has to. So if something comes in cash, it stays in cash. Is kind of the general way that he works things. So
Did Mark tell you where he kept the coins in the house?
I don't remember talking to him about where he kept stuff at. I just know that he had them because we were talking about, he had me looking up stuff on some of the different coins to find out which ones were worth money. And then, like I said, a lot of the conversation he had directly with Jerry about the actual investing part of it, if he should buy gold or buy silver, and whether it should be bullion or coins.
So, if the coins weren't, it's sounding to me like the coins weren't a definite means of payment for Mr. Rogers. So, how was he going to get paid for the services?
Well, Mark had said that, that there would, with the insurance money, and he said that it would, could probably take a few months before he'd get it. The conversation with Jimmy about the coins was kind of something that happened. Jimmy was around when we were talking about some of these coins and about collecting, so I mean, he knew that Mark had them, and I knew that he had them. So it was, and that was, when we were originally talking about it, because it's like, I don't want to wait 3 months to get paid, and, so the coins were kind of thrown in there as a way that it would actually be a robbery, and said I don't know for sure. Coins are something that he could have had, and I would have never seen it.
Was there also an agreement between you and Mr. Rogers for you to pay him for his services, to pay him some of your share of the money?
Well, Mark and I never talked about any amounts of money. Jimmy thought that if he could get $10,000 out of it, that's what he wanted. So we did talk about that. Mark said that there was insurance money and stuff like that, so he probably was expecting more, but that's what he wanted out of it for doing it. So.
Go back before.
When he first started asking me if I knew anybody or that I could find somebody, he had said that, or I may have even asked him what he was, what he thought it was for paying or something. And he said like 100,000 or more. So like I said, I don't. There was never any set amount, and then, but he said that everything would be taken care of. There was a lot of money, a lot of insurance money. So, and then he said, I know Mark. He's always got money hidden somewhere. He's one of the people that dig holes in his backyard. So.
Has Mark Sievers had any direct or indirect contact with you, whether you were incarcerated after your arrest, whether you're incarcerated up in Jefferson County or down here, either in person or through a mutual friend like your friend Tommy?
No. As far as I know, no, I'm positive he hasn't contacted me.
He hasn't delivered any messages to anybody or anything?
No. And I know Tommy hasn't talked to him, because I do talk to Tommy now and then still. I call him. And he would have told me if Mark had called him, so I'm absolutely sure that and if Mark has tried to get a hold of me, whoever it was didn't put it through. So
how many times did Mark talk about this situation in front of Jimmy?
Well, I don't know that he talked about it directly in front of Jimmy at all. I mean, he didn't know Jimmy that well. They had just met, at the wedding, so they were only around each other for a couple of days. He asked me if I could find somebody, and the less he knew, the better is kind of the way he looked at it. So he said he didn't want to know any details. And I kind of felt the same way, but after I found out more about it, and after you guys talked to me, I wanted to know what happened. So.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I know that according to what you're telling us, you were looking out for her to come home or for somebody to come home while Jimmy was inside the house. And then you tell us that Jimmy was caught off guard because she came home early. And I'm going to be honest with you, and this is what we do every day, and we talk to people. The entire time that you're talking to us, you appear sincere, and then when you talk about waiting outside and Jimmy not being in the house, your demeanor changes a little bit. And that could be me looking at you. I mean, it could be a number of things, but that would indicate to me that you're somehow trying to disassociate yourself with being inside the house. Not so much to be deceptive to us, but I think that you have also an emotional attachment. And I can tell by speaking to you right now that I'm correct in myself. Is that correct? Because we're here to be honest with each other.
Yeah.
I want want you to understand, Mr. Wright, your situation doesn't change at all if you're in the house. It doesn't change anything.
Yeah. And when we first got out of the car, I did go over there, but I was outside in case somebody came home or something. I wasn't part of actually what happened to her, so I mean, directly, I understand that I'm still responsible.
Well, if you're watching for cars to come down the street so that you can warn him, how did you not see her car come down the street to be able to warn him?
Well, I mean, it's not very far from the street to the house, so I mean, there really wasn't any chance. She pulled up, garage door open, she pulled straight in, so there really wasn't any chance of me warning him about that. When it was more, you know, if there were people walking, it was late at night, but if there were people walking on the street or something, you know, so that he didn't come out.
I think that
nobody's seen him. But
I'm not saying that you attacked her, but I think that you were in the house, and I think you helped Jimmy afterward. It would be beneficial to us for you to explain that and what happened. Because what you're explaining to us just seems from a different story. And this is not a technique, I'm being honest with you. If I had to bet money, I would say that you were in the house, for sure.
I get this is uncomfortable for you.
It's very uncomfortable, but that's where we're at with it.
Do you need a break to talk to us?
yeah.
Can we have a little bit?
Yeah, that's fine if you need a couple minutes.
Back to the holding cell, or?
Yeah, that'll be better.
That way you have your privacy.
Yeah.
I guess time is approximately
3:42.
3:42 p.m.
We're on again.
All right, we're back on the record. It's now 4:10 p.m. It's still January 6, 2016. Took a little break so Mr. Wright could talk to counsel and everybody's present.
And Mr. Wright at this point is ready to answer any questions that you have regarding your last topic.
Okay, and just going back to being inside the house when everything occurred and situations like that, can you in detail describe to us exactly what happened? And I just want to just take a quick moment and just kind of explain to you, we're not here to pass judgment on you. We're collectively here for, you know, what can commonly be referred to as mutual benefit. You know what I mean? And you're not helping yourself at all. You're definitely not helping us.
I understand.
And I understand because you're a human being and everybody makes a mistake. People have done far worse. We know what happened, but now we need the details to help each other to accomplish what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
So just know that we're not here to judge you.
Okay. Before you ask questions, I'd like to revise what I said, and then you guys can ask more questions. Is that okay?
Yeah, sounds good.
Everything was completely accurate up to when after we parked and went to the house. I did go to the house with Jimmy. Like I said, I was there. I was in the house. I did, most of the time that I was there, I was in the garage or at the side door, outside the side door. She did come home earlier than what we expected. She did catch us in the house. There was a huge struggle. She fought back, and I did go in the house, you know, when that was going on. Right. And really kind of after she had already been attacked, but I did go in. It seemed that, either something had went wrong or that he needed help or something. So I did go into the kitchen when it was going on. I grabbed the other hammer that was there at the house, the one that was on the freezer. When I went in, I wasn't the one that beat her to death. So you wanted to know? I was in the house. I wasn't in the house the entire time, but I was. I guess I wanted to believe that I had nothing to do with it.
Believe me, you're a human being. I understand that, but it's important that we're honest, no matter what you did or no matter what happened, because it's important to establish exactly, without doubt, what happened so that we can move on. And nobody's here to judge you at all. When Jimmy was in there and there was a struggle, what exactly happened during the struggle? And directly after what happened, like even down to her movements, where was there blood? Did she say anything? Was there any kind of conversation? What was her body movements when she went down, things like that?
Well, I wasn't standing there when all of it happened, so.
You were there for some of it.
Yeah. She was hit from behind when she came through coming through that hallway. And then I guess in the kitchen, she turned around and fought back. So I know that, she had her purse with her. The luggage that she had gotten out of the car was left in the garage, right in front of the door. So that stuff had gone through as well. I don't know if anything was taken from her wallet. I didn't.
Who went through it?
I don't remember anybody going through it, but if something was taken out of it, it had to have been Jimmy. I didn't.
What do you think could have been taken out of it?
Maybe money. I don't know. It's the only thing that I could think anybody would have wanted to take.
Did she say anything during the struggle, or any kind of conversation or anything?
No, I heard her say why. But I don't remember really saying anything else.
Did you or Jimmy say anything to her while this was occurring?
No.
And just so I got this right, and then stop me if I'm wrong, but to my recollection of the scene, you go through the garage door, then there's a door inside the garage that leads into the laundry room, and then there's a doorway about approximately 3.5, 4 feet from there, which leads into the kitchen.
Yes.
And there's a pantry on the right.
In the kitchen?
Yeah.
Yes, but there's also in that hallway.
That's what I'm saying.
There's one in there as well.
So there's 2 doorways before you even get into the kitchen once you get through the garage door.
Yeah, on the right side.
Yes.
Yeah. Is there 2 there? I only remember 1, but there could be 2.
No, that's what I'm saying. Once you get through the laundry room, you go from the garage, you walk through that laundry room where the washer and dryer is, and then it opens up into the kitchen.
Yeah, but in the laundry room, there's also a door on the right. That's where the computer equipment's at.
Oh, okay.
The router and
okay. I thought you meant the entryway.
Yeah, in that hallway. I guess you're calling it the laundry room. It's where
Yeah,
the washer and
in
dryer
that
is.
hallway.
It's more like a hallway to me, but yeah, that little
Either
room.
way, in the hallway.
Yeah, that little room that's right.
Now she gets home, and did she put her stuff down and walk in, and that's when she got hit, or did she bring some stuff in and
Well,
go back out?
I guess she had her purse with her. Like I said, she left the luggage in the garage. So,
And she had her purse with her, right?
yeah, I mean, yeah, she had her wallet and stuff. I saw the wallet in the house. I just didn't go in through it.
Sure.
Just make it clear, because you're still kind of, I guess. Where were you standing when she pulled in the garage? Where were you when she walked in the house? Where were you when Jimmy did what he did? And did you have any part in doing what Jimmy was doing? This is where he's trying to go.
This is where
This is
you
what
wanna
they're
go.
interested in.
You know-
And this is what we need to know and be clear
Yeah.
for them.
Yeah,
You know, I
thought that
helped
was.
Jimmy do this, or I didn't help Jimmy do this, or I saw Jimmy do this, or this happened. Like, very, very specific about what exactly happened. And I don't care if you hit her 15 times with a hammer. It does not matter to me. I don't care. But I want to know if you did it, and how you did it, and what role you played in the struggle.
I said she caught us in the house. I guess. I must have been outside of the door at the garage when she went past. Jimmy was he had to have been in a pantry or something. I couldn't see in there, but when she went in, when she was going through the laundry room, I came in behind her, and Jimmy attacked her from the kitchen. I hit her I picked up the hammer that was laying in the garage.
On the freezer, right?
Yes. I wasn't planning to have anything to do with it. But I did. And then Jimmy started hitting her over and over and over. I was in the kitchen. I saw what was going on. I didn't. And then I went outside. We both went outside. He was behind me. And then the outfit that he had on, I helped him get out of. Right outside the garage door, the side door. So, it was taped up and that, his wrists and his feet. So I helped him to get the tape off and get out of it. Everything got put in his gym bag.
What were you wearing?
Just clothes. I mean, I didn't. Like I said, I wasn't planning on actually doing anything. So
I just wanted you're doing a good job at answering our question, but I want to be just a little bit more specific so that we don't miss anything. You were standing in the garage when the garage door opened and she pulled in.
Yeah,
at that
because
point?
I had been going. Like I said, I had been in through the side door in and out of that side door.
And that's my question. What specifically were you doing? What was the reason for the movement in the house?
Because I was watching. I was kind of watching the gate and make sure there wasn't anybody outside on the sidewalk, whatever. I had kind of came and went, and I was watching, but I was also in the garage, back and forth in the garage.
And what is Jimmy doing in preparation for this?
Well, he went in the house and was looking for stuff. obviously looking for the coins or whatever. So I don't know that there was really any preparation made. That was the one. I'm sorry, I actually left something out. The reason I was going back and forth was I was the one that pried the garage door open. That was part of it, was setting that stuff up ahead of time so it looked like it was broke into.
She pried the side garage door ahead of time before she was ever home.
Yeah.
Were you wearing gloves?
Yeah, I had gloves on as well.
What clothing were you wearing?
I don't know.
Do you remember what shoes you were wearing?
Yeah, I had the water shoes on that I bought at Walmart.
Do you normally wear water shoes as footwear when you're not at the beach?
No.
So you bought those water shoes in preparation for that night?
Well, I bought them for the beach, so, but I had them on then, yeah.
Okay. While you were prying the side garage door, how did Jimmy get taped all around, like you were saying, on his ankles and his wrists? Did you tape Jimmy up?
I don't think so. I'm almost positive that I didn't help him with that at all. I mean, you can tape yourself up. It is possible that I might have helped with the last one or something.
Well, that's what we're saying. It's either did happen or
I know,
did not
but
happen.
honestly, I'm not trying to dodge it. I'm being completely.
It's nothing changes here. We need to know. We need to know that we can trust you with things that we already know.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Just tell us, yeah, I did hit her. I hit her with this. I did this. I helped Jimmy or I didn't help Jimmy. Just specifically, not. You know, I remember I could have, or you can possibly take yourself. He either did or he did. That's something that you should go with.
We want your words. We're not here to.
Yeah, we're not trying
I understand. I mean,
We don't want you to tell
that
us
was
something.
kind of a traumatic experience. I don't.
It is. It's a lot, and I know it's hard to relive it, and that's why
I don't. And it's not just reliving it. I don't remember specifically him taping up. So I mean, I'm not saying I didn't. I very well.
You just don't remember.
I don't remember. I don't. I'm not trying to dodge the question. I'm really not.
We'll come back to this.
If it's questionable, then I would say yes, I helped him.
Before we get any further away from what was uncomfortable, because I understand what you're saying. How many times did you hit?
I don't know, just a couple. It was when it first started, and then Jimmy went berserk. So
Sure. Do you remember what part of her face, or head, or body, or anywhere that you hit her?
no, I really don't. I know the first time I was in the back of the head, because it was when she was walking into the kitchen.
So you struck first before Jim.
Yeah, because I was behind her.
Did she fall down, or did she struggle, or turn around, or?
Yeah, she struggled. She fought back. I didn't.
Did she recognize you?
I don't know.
Did she look at you in your
I
eyes?
had a full hat on and all of that, so.
Can you describe the hat?
It was one of those round ones where the beach had the flap on the back.
Is it the one that was in back of your car in the rental vehicle, the Elantra, the second one?
It's got the net top.
It was exactly like that, but no, it was gray instead of white. I think the one that was in I bought that when Angie and I were down there.
What'd you do with the one that you were wearing the night of that?
It would have been at the house.
Did you end up dumping it?
I don't remember throwing it away.
Alright, so other than the large brim hat with the flap that goes down the back, were you wearing anything to cover your face?
No.
What did the gloves look like that you were wearing? Were they surgical gloves style? Were they leather gloves?
Oh, wait a minute. You know, I think I did buy some mechanic gloves at Walmart. I think, you know, like the leather mechanic gloves that, you know, I have a bunch of them. I wear them when I'm working on cars and digging and that kind of stuff.
So you had like more,
Yeah, I had
more
gloves on.
heavy duty protective gloves
Yeah.
versus like throwaway surgical gloves.
Yes. Yeah, they were mechanics gloves.
Mechanics brand.
I think that's what brand they were. But they're exactly like the ones that say mechanics. I don't know if mechanics is one that Walmart carries, but
Sure.
you know, they got the padded, you know, stuff in them
To deal with bumping your hand on whatever. Do you have anything covering your face?
No, I didn't.
Remember if you had long sleeves or short sleeves? I know Jim, you said he had a suit on, is what you said?
Yeah, one of those jumpsuits.
You didn't have a no suit? This is important.
I know it is. I want to make sure that what I tell you is accurate.
Just even if you need to say the thing, but just please be honest with us.
Actually, I think I did have one of them on. I don't know that it was exactly the same, but I did have like one of those, I don't know what you call them, coveralls.
Were you taped up also?
No, I wasn't planning on being in there. I don't.
But being that,
Well,
I don't.
wait.
No, I know.
Being honest,
I know what
you
you're
got a
saying.
jumpsuit on with a wide brim hat, you got gloves on, you plan on being in there, right?
Well, I planned on being in the house.
Okay.
So I don't remember. I probably did as well. You're right. So, but I would have done it after we were at the house.
You would have done what?
I put tape on. So yeah.
Well, I'm sure you both probably got dressed inside, right? Did you walk through the neighborhood wearing coveralls with wide brim hats, taped up gloves on your hand?
I don't remember what he was wearing. I got dressed at the house, yes. So, and yeah. He got dressed at the house as well. That was how it happened.
Do you remember how much time you spent in the house before she came home?
Half hour, maybe, at the most. May not even have been that long.
So you guys literally had time to get in, get dressed, and then you were caught off guard.
Yeah, because she came home earlier than what we thought she was going to be there. The time that I thought she was going to get off the plane is the time she got home. So it was 20-25 minutes off on the time. So, and that could have just been me from not remembering it accurately, or maybe I looked up the wrong flight. So,
Yeah. Well, when you say looked at the wrong flight, I thought that information was provided to you by Mark.
It was. He gave me where she was coming from and the airline, and so.
just more specifically, and so that we don't lose our places, stay on track. You said that you came behind her, you took the hammer, you hit her with the hammer an unknown amount of times, several times at least. Does she fall down immediately and then Jimmy comes out of the pantry, or is she struggling and kicking and fighting? And
She was still on her feet when Jimmy started hitting her.
And then what specifically happens from there?
As slow as possible.
As slow as possible, leading right up to the point to where she stopped moving.
Well, once he started hitting her, he said she was still on her feet. I don't. hitting her until she was down, and then she kept moving. So he just kept hitting her.
Okay, now
And then once she was on the floor, he just kept bashing her head in.
when she's down on the floor, is he straddled over her hitting her, or is he standing up hitting her?
I mean, straddled like down on the floor.
Yeah, like is he like sitting on top of her hitting her, or is he hunched over her hitting her?
Yeah, he was leaned over.
And the amount of blood and things like that are recovered, where do you see the blood? Where is the blood going?
I didn't see blood anywhere except where she was bleeding on the floor. That was one of the things I do remember because it surprised me that there wasn't more blood.
Can you motion to me exactly how he was hitting her? Can you kind of mime it out for me, like, and show us the overhand, or was it like short, like how he actually did it?
It's no, I mean they were full swings. That's what you're
Like, yeah, that's what I mean. If you can like just show us literally how he did it.
Yeah. I mean, I guess, because when she wasn't standing up, she was kind of bent over, but
Yeah.
before she actually went down. And I'm not sure about the first times that he hit her. I mean, she was standing up, so he would have had to hit her, over the top. But once she was going down, I remember the hammer being all the way out, kind of behind him as he was swinging it.
So basically a full swing.
Yeah.
And now once she's down on the ground, and I assume she's laying face down at this point, because I mean that's
It's in the back of the head. Yeah.
When she's down on the ground, when you explain that she's moving, is it a twitching movement, like her legs are twitching, or is she still like actively alive and moving?
No, she was making noises. So I mean,
What kind of noises?
like she was trying to say something. And I'm sure that she wasn't at that point. But
Did he say anything?
I don't remember anything being said.
So now, once she's finally dead, you guys are. What actually made you know that she's dead? At what point did you decide that that's it? She's gone. Or I'll rephrase it. What was the indication to you that it was time to stop hitting her and move on?
I turned around before he did. So I don't know if I maybe I said something like that's enough, or maybe I'm honestly I'm not sure. It was kind of a blur. It was.
But either way, at some point you were both satisfied that she was dead.
Well, yeah. I mean, he wouldn't have stopped hitting her. I mean, that's what he said. He kept hitting her until he was sure. But I mean, when I turned around, I mean, it was. I mean, he had hit her over and over while she was already down. I mean, I just. And I actually think that once he started to walk away, then he ran back and hit her one more time. And I remember the sound that, and it was...
What did it sound like?
Like somebody smashing a pumpkin or something.
Now, once she's dead, what exactly do you do from there? What is your plan? Because, like, what exactly do you do now with the hammers and other things there?
I don't know. I think I dropped mine. I know that when I kicked the dog bowl over. The dog's water bowls are like right as the kitchen opens up. They're right there on the wall to the right, and I kicked them over before in the past when I was at the house. I mean, they're right when you're walking, and I do remember that I knocked the dog bowls over when I was coming in. When I came in behind her, I kicked the dog bowls over. So I think there was a lot of water on the floor as well. But I think I just dropped my hammer. I don't know what he did.
Can you describe the hammer to us?
I can't. I don't know. It was just something. I picked it up. It was at the house. It wasn't.
So if there was a hammer laying on the floor in the kitchen, would it be safe to say that that's the one that you most likely dropped there by the dog bowls?
Yeah, if there was only one in the kitchen, I would say that was probably the one I had.
Do you remember what kind of hammer Jimmy had? You mentioned something about a ball peen hammer.
That's not what he used, though.
That's how he used it.
Yeah, he used a hammer. He always carries a ball peen hammer with him. The hammer that he used was, they were both claw hammers, if that's what you're asking, what kind of hammer. But
yeah,
they were both normal hammers that we would have in any toolbox. So
the hammer that he used, did he bring it there, or is it something there that he used?
It was a hammer he found at the house. So
why didn't you guys bring any tools to kill her with?
I definitely wasn't planning on killing her with a hammer.
Would you plan on killing her with?
I didn't really have an idea. Honestly, I didn't bring a gun. I didn't have a knife.
You planned out a homicide with someone.
But I also left it up to Jimmy. So
right. Then why did you strike first?
She caught us off guard. So
why didn't you let Jimmy have his opportunity to strike first?
Yeah.
Do you remember with her wallet and things like that, and the way that you guys laid out the wallet? Do you remember?
Yeah, I didn't touch the wallet. I'm sure that I didn't haul it out. I don't know if he did or if it's just how it landed. I know she dropped her purse, so.
At any point, who used the sink?
It wasn't me. I wouldn't have used the sink. You talking about the one in the kitchen or the one in the hallway?
The one in the hall.
I don't know. I didn't.
Why don't you know any of these things?
Well, I can't. I didn't see it, so I don't know it. I didn't do it, but I also wasn't watching him though. He was in the house.
What about the bucket under the sink?
So
The bleach bucket.
I don't know. I didn't see a bucket.
Let's do this. After you dropped the hammer, what did you do next? In your own words,
Went straight out. Went straight out the door.
So you left the kitchen area and went where?
Through the hallway, out into the garage.
And what?
Her suitcase was sitting outside the garage, so that got opened up. And
who got it opened up?
I did. So I opened the suitcase. I think I just tossed it and threw some stuff out of it or something.
Did you take anything out of it?
No. In the garage door I had already pried open, so when it was over, I went straight out the door. Got out of the clothes right there outside the side door. So
Did you have blood on you at all?
I didn't see any. It was dark though.
What about you?
I didn't see it. Both, the clothes all came off right outside the door there.
And what did you do with them? Like, at that point, did you wrap them up? Did you just carry them in your arm?
The gym bag, or in that backpack.
So everything that you had, the gloves and the hats and the suits and everything went into that bag that Jimmy originally brought with him.
Yeah.
Do you ever have the cooler inside the house that Jimmy brought with him? And just for the record, now that we're being 100% honest now, what was in the cooler specifically?
Well, the cooler was in the trunk.
Yeah.
So what I saw, I think, was, well, I saw gloves, a box of gloves in there. Those were also gloves from his work.
Okay.
They were those, they are like purple. I think they're purple latex.
Are they the kind of glove that ends at the wrist, or do they exceed past the wrist?
No, they were longer. I don't remember how long.
But they're still like the kind of latex gloves.
Yeah, but they're thicker.
Gloves.
Yeah, they're the ones that they use for the chemicals and stuff where it works.
And you had originally mentioned that Jimmy used a crowbar to make it look like somebody had forced entry into the house. That's
what I said earlier. I
remember you said maybe Jimmy threw it out the window or something of that effect.
Yeah.
I apologize.
That is what happened to it.
The crowbar.
And now
You're saying the crowbar got thrown out of the window?
Yeah.
Which leads me into, at the scene, there was a flat bar. You know what a flat bar is? You do a lot of, there was a flat bar left there. Did you intentionally leave that there to make it appear that was the one, or?
No. And I thought that was what got thrown out the window. Was it in the house, or was it out by the garage? Or
can you explain the crowbar?
Because the reason I'm asking is it may have been something that was already at the house.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Can you just explain what you used to?
Yeah, it was
pry the door?
You're calling it a flat bar. That's, I guess, what it is. It's about this wide. It's about that long. It's got a 90 at one end and a flat at the other.
It's thin, right?
Yeah.
That's why they call it.
Did it have any coloring on it that you remember?
I think it was blue.
So
I think it was like what is that brand? Cobalt or something is blue. It may have been one of those.
once you leave the house, now you go back in the car. Now, do you guys just hightail it and start going home, or do you stop somewhere else somewhere?
No, we left right from there.
And who's driving? Do you remember?
I think I drove first.
Do you remember the route that you took? You don't have to give me the roads if you don't remember them.
I don't remember roads.
Did you get on 75, or did you take a smaller road? Did you go straight to the highway? Did the GPS?
Well, 75 is the main road north, right?
Yeah, that's like the big highway.
So there was a road when we came out of the apartment building. We made a left instead of a right back to the main road. We went left, and then I don't know, the GPS it showed the route.
So that's my question. Did the GPS lead you there, or did you know how to get there?
No, I didn't know. Yeah, the GPS took us out, because when we came in, we got off at the main road that runs down to the beach.
Okay.
But when we left, we went out the opposite way. Well, not the opposite way, but from the other side. And it was small road. It was like a little 2-lane road. They went out, and then we got on the highway there. So it would have probably been one exit south of the Bonita.
And you didn't actually discard any items or throw anything out the window or anything until your first stop northbound. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you remember
it was a rest stop. I'm almost positive it was a rest stop. Was our first stop. And
specifically, why did you stop there? Did you stop to get gas, or did you stop to rest, or stop to clean the car?
Well, it would have been to clean out the car. We had a lot of garbage and stuff in there anyway, but obviously one of the main reasons would have been to make sure that any of the clothes got thrown away.
Naturally, did you throw them in a dumpster or like a trash can or something?
It was, I don't know, they're like 50-gallon trash barrels.
Oh, like the big barrels?
Yeah, I think that's what they are. They got the flap on them. I think that's what was at the press stop.
And who actually threw the items out?
Well, I threw stuff away, trash out of the car, and then he threw stuff away too, and it was two different trash cans. So what I assumed he threw away was the clothes he had on, but from what it sounds like, he brought it back with him. And I didn't.
Are you confident that the clothes that you were wearing definitely got thrown away?
Yeah.
And you also mentioned the phone at that point. Did you get rid of the phone, or did you do it well before?
No, the phone, I didn't get rid of my phone until we were back in Missouri.
And at what point did you actually get rid of the phone when you were back?
Well, right when we got off the highway to head over to Jimmy's house. I can't remember what the exit is, but it would have been, it's the way that the Garmin took us, so.
And after this happened, and before you got rid of the phone, did you contact Mark or try to contact Mark at all?
No, Mark had already gotten rid of his phone when they went out of town. I kept mine until we got back. The only contact that I'm aware of that had anything to do with me or Mark was, and it was before I got arrested, but I had sent him a text just saying, I don't remember exactly what it said, but saying, like, I know your lawyer told us not to talk, but I just wanted to make sure it was something along those lines. It was from my phone, so it should have been in there when you guys got the phone. So.
And he had never...
But it was from my normal phone to his normal phone. So, and he didn't respond, which I didn't expect him to.
And in between the time of the murder, because remember, we didn't come talk to you for a while after this happened.
It was the day after we got back, but because we left the day after.
Yeah, but you naturally you have a day. Did you have any kind of correspondence with him? Did you talk to him at all about this?
No. Mark made it clear that there was to be no talking about it after it happened. No communication, never to be mentioned again. Was adamant about that, so, which is why when I said that when we were down at the funeral, I did try to talk to him once when I had a minute alone with him, and he didn't want to talk about it at all. So.
And as far as this phone number that you were using, do you have any possible way that you can reclaim the number? Or remember the number or find
There's
the number?
no way I could remember it. And like I said, I never called it, so it was stored in the phones.
So did you communicate via text, or did you just usually just call each other and talk on the phone?
It was mostly talk, but I said when if there were texts, it was. I think almost all of it was actual talking. I did text him the phone number when I first got the phone, so that he had it. And there may have been other ones.
Follow-up question about this. Sure. Did you ever have to get additional minutes? Can you tell them about how the phone worked and whether or not you had to
the phone that I had, I got like one of those 100-minute cards for $10, and they're only good for 30 days. It was beyond the 30 days, so whatever point that was before I went to Florida, before Jimmy and I went to Florida, I did have to get more minutes for it. So I don't know.
If you were shown phone records that maybe had the number on it, would you think you could be able to identify it?
Well,
your number at least?
Well, it was, like I say, it was a 901. I'm pretty sure that it was a 1, but it was definitely like a 90 area code. So.
Is there anything that you can think of, or something that you kept, or some kind of fail-safe you kept in case things didn't happen the way that they were supposed to, and that you would be able to use against Mark later? which is common in transactions like this. Can you think of anything that you forgot or anything you overlooked, that any physical document or the check that he sent you or anything like that?
I mean, the check, he would have wrote in the memo that it was for work. But it was a check from the office, so.
But if you looked at the check, would you be able to identify it as the check that you cashed, knowing being that Mark told you that these funds were obviously to come down here and do what happened?
Well, I would know it because of what was written in the memo. It said like June to December or something like that, support. So, I mean, I don't know. There has to be a record from his bank
No, and that's what I'm asking you. If you were shown a picture of that check,
yeah, I would know
copy of that check,
yeah.
you would know that check and what it was used for.
Yes.
And how do you know that money was supposed to be used for what it was used for?
Because I didn't. Well, I mean, for one thing, he sent it before it was due.
Well, basically what I'm asking is, did Mark specifically tell you that that's what the money
I told him I needed money. Yeah.
But did he know that it was to kill?
Yeah. I mean, it was money for the trip, so I guess, it was money for the trip to kill her, yes. It wasn't separate money for doing it, but.
Was it the night of your wedding or the night before that you spoke with Jimmy and Mark about what the semi-plan was?
No, I talked to Mark. Well, it was the wedding day when Mark and I were going to get to meet. When he and I talked, not just, but the whole thing. I mean, we talked multiple times during that day, but that's when the plans were made. I didn't talk to Jimmy about it because at the point when I talked to Mark, I just told him that I'd see what I could do. I didn't tell him that I was going to do it or help him. And like I said, I delayed. I didn't get the phone right away. I mean, this wasn't just a I'm on board kind of a thing. It was and it wasn't until after I got the phone and talked to Mark, he gave me more information about the office and the house. As far as what he had in mind as far as it happening when she left work. It wasn't until after that I talked to Jimmy. And, I don't remember the dates, but it was after. It was after the 17th because that's when I got my phone.
After May 17th is when you talked to Jimmy?
It would have been after May 17th when I talked to Jimmy.
How many times do you think you talked to Mark to go over details and plans?
Well, different parts of the plan, probably a dozen times.
How much money was promised to Jimmy? Because I understand what you said earlier when you said Jimmy said he hoped to get around $10,000 worth of valuables from the house. But these transactions don't occur with just hopes. So what did you say to Jimmy?
Well, I honestly didn't tell Jimmy an amount. I mean, the 10,000 was talked about because he wanted money immediately.
Did he bring that number up, or did you?
Well, it was when we were talking about what the coins and stuff were worth. That was the number that I had come up with from doing the research from Mark. So. And that was discussed with Jimmy because initially it was 3 months before he was going to get any money. It was just, I know that you're saying that it doesn't happen without detailed amounts of money talked about, but it wasn't. I mean, Mark and I have been friends since we were kids. Like I said, this was about, to me, this wasn't about money. For Jimmy, it was about money.
So what did you tell Jimmy to get him to buy in? In 3 months, Mark will get insurance money and then you'll get paid, or what? Because I'm putting words in your mouth right now.
Yeah.
But I don't want to do that.
No, when we originally talked about it, it was 3 months, insurance money. He knew that he was going to get paid out of insurance money.
What did he say about that?
Well, he said he didn't want to have to wait that long, but it is what it is, I think, is kind of one of those things he says. But, and then the stuff with the gold and silver came up, and then that kind of became, immediate money. So I mean, I'm sure that he was expecting more once the insurance came through, but we really didn't talk about amounts.
You and Jimmy had quite a bit of correspondence after this all happened, and especially when we started coming around up in Missouri. At any point did he start pressing you, wondering where the money was, or want to talk to Mark or anything like that?
No. He did say at one point that if Mark didn't pay him, that he would kill Mark.
Did you ever request to take a meeting with him and Taylor Showmaker about our visit to them?
Well, I did go to their house and talk to them. I think that was after you guys had been
First time we were there.
But I had asked him to get together with them, and we met at the bar.
Tell me about that.
Was Hub's Pub there in Bonterre, which is the town my parents live in. So it's right there. That was before we got the house put back together where we could stay there. And so I was working on my mom and dad's house for them, just putting drywall up in their basement. So we had been staying there at mom and dad's. We were there for a couple of weeks, so it would have had to have been probably within a couple of weeks when you guys were at the house, whenever I got together with them. So,
what was the conversation about?
Well, about what happened, just letting him know that, you guys were at the house, and I kept him outside so we could talk. And we talked about really just kind of talked about it. We didn't talk hardly at all on the way back from Florida. I mean, it was kind of we didn't talk much. I know it's a long trip, but I mean, we were both really tired. We drove down there, pretty much nonstop on the way back. One of us was sleeping pretty much the whole time the other one was driving. So, and neither one of us were very talkative. He was really freaked out.
Why?
Well, over what happened. I don't know why, if he was supposed to be somebody that did this all the time. But he was...
How'd you feel?
Be honest, if you think that she was a bitch, then maybe she was, and that's the way it is. But like when we look at the video of you guys coming back, and we watch you walk in and you're smiling, and Jimmy walks in, he's smiling, he's flirting with the girl at the counter and stuff like that. That doesn't look like two guys that didn't talk much during the car, or two guys that were so freaked out they didn't know what was going on. It was literally business as usual.
Well, I didn't say I was freaked out. I said he was freaked out. I was kind of numb, I guess. I don't really know what I felt.
I've believe that to some extent, and it was, it's probably surreal. It's just, you're sitting there and you're probably asking yourself, did this just happen? Because in retrospect, it is a major event. I'm sure, every Tuesday you don't go out and kill somebody, but at some point, somebody's got to relax, and especially Jimmy, I think, because I can even tell from talking to him, he feels nothing, and he's literally dead on the inside. So I don't think, he was probably scared maybe, and maybe some adrenaline was pumping, but by the time you guys made it to where you're going, you had to have spoken. Because I can see you literally on video interacting.
We talked some, we just didn't talk about it. We didn't talk about what happened. And we didn't really talk a whole lot anyway. Like I said, we were sleeping, when the other one was driving for the most part. I'm not saying we didn't speak. I don't think that, I don't think that that's, you should have gotten what I said to mean that we didn't talk at all. We didn't talk about it.
So after all this is done and you have these legal problems and things like that, Mark makes no attempt whatsoever to contact.
No, Mark and I
didn't call anybody or say anything.
No, we didn't talk. I didn't speak to Mark after we came back from Florida. After Angie and I came back from Florida.
Did Jimmy ever make any inquiry into this as to everything that's going on, and Mark's just kind of maintaining just status quo, is like living his regular life, going to the beach and going out to dinner?
No, I don't think Jimmy thought he had anything at all to worry about. He got arrested. So,
I'm just talking from a financial standpoint.
Well, he was expecting for it to be months. Anyway, he knew he was waiting on the insurance, and he knew that you guys had talked to Mark, which was going to delay it. So.
On that Sunday, the night you came home, during the day, did you speak with Angie?
I didn't have my phone.
She had your phone.
I don't remember talking to her.
She called Jimmy's phone.
Yeah, was that on Sunday? Mm-hmm. Okay. Well then,
tell me about that conversation.
I don't remember talking to her. That's what I'm saying.
Did Jimmy talk to her?
It probably was me. I don't know what the conversation was. So it wasn't anything to do with. She had no idea. So she wouldn't have known what was going on. She thought I was going to work. So.
With these phones, these prepaid phones that you guys were using, is there anything in the text messages that would indicate, and did you guys ever spoken anything like via text message, or was everything?
I think the majority of it was talk.
So the contents of your text message wouldn't sway anything either way, or?
Well, I don't remember what was texted and what was talked about. I'm sorry, I don't.
But when you were texting, if between Mark and you and Jimmy, did you have a texting code, using a code word that had been set up prior to this so that everybody would know what the topic is? Although you have throwaway phones, you're still going to talk about the murder. So what codes, if any?
No, the only thing that was ever texted on the, I thought I said that actually. That,
you might have.
Was using the word other is how Mark wanted to let me know that he needed to talk to me.
Describe a text from Mark when he uses the term other.
He would just say something that had the word other in it. I think, I don't know, at one point I think he even put parentheses around the word, or not parentheses, right? Quotations. Quotations, yeah. I think that was something about brother from another mother, which actually is something that we've said our whole lives. We've referred to each other that way, but in that context, with the quotes around it, it's a little. And anything else else would have been referred to, something about, get a hold of me about the other stuff or something like that. It was, other was the only word that.
Let me ask you just a specific reference what we're talking about, text messages. When Mark sent you a message basically saying that he wanted to speak with you and it wasn't about you or it wasn't about Angie, but he wanted to speak with you, was he specifically talking about when you guys were at the wedding?
Yeah. Because that's everything that we talked about. Well, like the first Saturday when we talked at the house, there wasn't. It was and then I think there was probably another conversation that same day that may have got into it a little deeper. But then on Sunday morning is when it really. When he came straight out. Every time that we talked about it, it got more direct. So, and then like I said, when we were in the car, so it was what are the options? And he said that the only option was for her to get killed. So.
What was taken from? I'm sorry. What was taken from the house?
Wait a second. I think there's something that Mr. Parker.
There's two things that I would like him to talk about that they just haven't been asked about, but.
On the way back, at one point, and I think it was the same place that we stopped on the way in when we come down that racetrack or something. I think that was that was one of the places that we stopped on the way up to get gas, and it was the Garmin. It was in the Garmin when you're driving. You just say go to the nearest gas station, and that's where it took us to. Their sign was on, but when we got off the exit, everything down there was like blacked out. Everything was boarded up, and I don't know what was going on at that exit, but it was the gas station was all lit up. The sign was on. So we'd actually pulled in to get gas, and they didn't turn the pump on. Jimmy got out and actually went to the window to pay for it, and was standing there knocking on the window and stuff, and they just completely ignored him. And finally he got aggravated. When we come back to the car, he called them. He called them and asked them if they were open, and they said no, and he yelled at them. I don't remember what he said, but something about turning their damn sign off or something if they're not open. But so I mean that had happened. There would have been a text at some point, and it would have been on the other phones about the codes for the garage and all that. Would have been on there, and he would have texted, because I have trouble remembering things like that. And so there was a note that would have been, that message would have been saved so that I could go back and look at it if I needed to remember what they were. So
when he mailed you the number for the other phone, what'd you do with it? Did you keep it? Is there any chance you kept it?
I doubt
Put it in a file or something?
No, I'm sure that was thrown away. Probably tore up and thrown away.
When you activated the phone, did you activate it online, or did you call the number?
No, they did it at Walmart. That's why he told me to go to Walmart, because they activated it. So there was no.
Did you have a receipt or anything? Did you keep a receipt?
I'm sure I did.
When you purchased it, did you have to purchase it in your own name?
No, that's the thing about these phones, is they're completely anonymous.
Okay. Just want to make sure.
Yeah.
And you paid, how did you pay for it?
Paid cash, so.
Where did you end up throwing it away?
At the car wash when we got back. When I got off the highway to go to Jimmy's house. It was at that car wash where we vacuumed out the car. And, it was thrown away in that trash can.
Is everybody just about ready to wrap up?
I have two things left, and that's it. Okay. First, all the planning that went into this, but then you guys intentionally didn't bring any weapons. Or am I wrong?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't want anything in the car that we could get in trouble for. So
How'd you know about all the hammers that would be in the house?
when we went to the house that morning, that's when he went through the toolbox, and he even made a comment about when he picked the hammer up. He even made a comment, was like, like how convenient, my weapon of choice or something. So.
And just to confirm, because I don't know if we ever asked it directly, when you came in and hit from behind, where was Jimmy at that moment? Was he hiding somewhere? Was he standing next to you? Where was he?
He was hiding somewhere. Like I said, I don't know if it was if he was just in the kitchen, or if he was, in that pantry or where, because as soon as we went into the kitchen, he was there. So, I don't know if he was in the door or standing there waiting, around the corner, or I'm really not sure, because I was coming from behind her. So,
My last question: what do you think Jimmy's gonna say to us?
I mean, that's what happened.
You're comfortable with everything you said today?
Yeah. I mean, there's not any more to it. I mean,
That's kind of an important question, because Jimmy Ray's lawyers may have already done the same thing with us, or they may be planning to do the very same thing with us. So,
I mean, everything that I told you is what happened. I mean,
There's nothing more to revise.
No, I didn't. I mean, we were. I told you I was there. I mean, I did hit her too. So.
Just a question I had.
I'm not trying to blame it all on him.
What was taken from the house?
I don't know if there was anything taken. I mean, Jimmy was in the house when I was out there, messing with the door and stuff. He was in the house looking for stuff. He was in the house when we were there that morning, also looking around. I wasn't next to him. So I don't know of anything being taken. If there was something taken, it was small enough that either went in his backpack or in his pocket. So.
Mr. Ross, any questions?
No questions.
Okay, just a few last comments, and we'll wrap things up. Mr. Wright, one thing that I want to make, that I feel like I have to say this. Well, I really have to, but I feel like I have to say this. Whatever happens with this process, it's our job to make sure that you get a fair trial, just like it's their job. The difference is these two are sworn to secrecy. Okay? If they tell anybody what you have told them, they could lose everything. Nice suit, nice tie. And one thing, like I said, I don't know them very well, but I get the impression they're both very competent attorneys. And I'm a little concerned that you haven't fostered the relationship with them that you need to foster. Okay? Because you came today and you told us that you didn't go in the house. Then you told us that you did. And you told us you stayed in the garage. Then you told us that you didn't stay in the garage. And you told us that you didn't hit her. And then you said that you did hit her. You see where I'm going with this? And I know that your attorneys wouldn't have wanted you, if they knew the truth, they wouldn't have wanted you to come in here and say anything other than that. Okay? Whatever happens from here on in is your destiny. Okay? What's going to happen as from this process is the first thing that's going to happen is consideration. We're going to sit down and we're probably going to listen to the recording, watch the video again, bounce it around the state attorney's office and decide what we're going to do. And then we'll bounce it off with the sheriff's office and figure out what we're going to do. Okay? If we do decide that we want to pursue this relationship more, then we'll reach out to your attorneys and say, okay, here's what we'd like to do. We'll probably convey a plea offer. All right? Or we could contact them and say, listen, we don't trust Mr. Wright. And we don't think we can trust him and we don't think we can present him as a credible witness, and we could say we're done. We could say that as well. I don't know what's going to happen. I still have an open mind. However, if we do want to engage in a plea, we will convey a plea offer. And then they're going to come talk to you about it. You may not like the plea offer, so you may say, no, I'm not doing it. Okay? You could say, okay, we'll do it. If we do, then there'll be another visit. We're probably at a different venue. We'll draft a plea agreement. It'll be a really long plea agreement, and we'll go over it ad nauseum and in detail, and they'll have it beforehand as well. And if we do agree to have that plea offer, everybody's gonna sign. There will be a plea. You'll probably be polygraphed. You may be polygraphed more than once. And there'll be a much longer and more detailed, today was nothing. Today was easy. Okay? There's probably a much longer and much more detailed interview.
That's actually what I was gonna say when you were talking about that, about everything being. That's what I was gonna. I didn't know if you would do that anyway, but that's what I was gonna say. Was I'm more than willing to take any kind of a polygraph or voice analysis, whatever those things are that they're using now.
Well, you might have failed one today. And if you were being polygraphed today, you might have failed. And failing a polygraph is pretty much bounces up the plea agreement. Okay?
Yeah.
And you understand what I'm getting at,
Yeah.
Mr. Wright?
I've been completely. There's nothing being hidden. I had problems. I wasn't the one that dealt the killing blows.
Well, let me. I'm going to interrupt you right there. Let me stop you right there. And I'm going to ask you this question. This is the $10 billion question. Okay? And if you want to talk about it with Mr. Sconzo and Ms. Parker, I know they'll talk to you about it. Is there anything that you want to change? Because if there is, now is the time to do it. You may not get a chance. This may be your last. This is the $10 billion question, Mr. Wright. I want you to think about it. Is there anything that you said to us today that you know you need to change?
No, there's not. That's what we talked about back there. I understood that. That's the reason that I revised it. There's nothing more to it. I had. I don't know. I struggled with admitting that I was in the house or that I hit her. That was my stumbling block. I realized that, like you said, there's nothing to gain by me not being completely honest with you, and I was.
Along the same vein as what Mr. Hunter is saying, don't minimize your role in any way, shape, or form. Everything on the table right now.
Yeah, it's a good thing that we got through this today, because had this happen, if we move forward, that all goes away, and then there's no going back. And you made the decision that we're going to try and move forward with this. You might as well give it 100%, because it is what it is. People are people. Everybody makes mistakes, but you made the mistakes, and now you agreed to be honest with us and tell us what happened.
And that's what was discussed, obviously, and that's the reason there was a revision. So just understand that there was some things that he was very troubled with, he's been troubled with, and he just needed a little help
Just to get past.
crossing the finish line.
Okay, $20 billion.
Oh, now we got...
Is there anything that you said that you want to change?
Anything that I needed to change, I already changed.
Okay. All right. we're gonna wrap things up. What I will say is also one of the quickest ways that a defendant can find himself in deep trouble at trial is for his lawyer not to know things that they should have known before trial. And that's just some I've seen that happen. I've been the prosecutor trying the case, and something happened at trial that their lawyer could have known had their client told them, and it didn't. And they lost a trial and they went to prison for a long time. Again, just some advice as the prosecutor. You need to foster a good relationship with your lawyers. They have to trust you, and you need to trust them. Ms. Ross, anything?
Nothing.
Ms. Parker, Mr. Sconzo, anything?
Nothing more.
I will commend you. You do an excellent job.
Thank you.
All right, well, we'll get the transport officer, and I'm going to go ahead and pause to stop the tape. The time is now 5:23 p.m.
Some of the best interviews that I've seen. You guys did a very good job.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
In the early morning hours of June 27, 2015, Curtis Wright took a rental car from his home in Missouri, picked up Jimmy Rogers, and the two drove over 1,000 miles to the Sievers home in Bonita Springs, Florida. Detectives were able to track their GPS log for the entire trip. Upon arriving at the residence, the two men disabled the alarm system, drove to pick up more supplies, and returned to wait for Teresa to get home. They then ambushed her in the kitchen, again striking her 17 times in the head with the hammer, packed up, and drove back to Missouri. Curtis Wayne Wright took a plea deal and received a 25-year sentence in exchange for his testimony against Mark Sievers and Jimmy Rogers. He pleaded guilty to second-degree murder. Jimmy Rogers, who was initially facing first-degree murder charges and a possible death penalty, was ultimately found guilty of second-degree murder, and in December of 2019 was sentenced to life in prison. Mark Sievers was found guilty of first-degree murder in December of 2019, and the jury unanimously recommended the death penalty. In January of 2020, he was sentenced to death and remains on death row at Union Correctional Institution in Florida. In November of 2022, Sievers' appeal was denied and his conviction was affirmed by a Florida Supreme Court. Just a few weeks later, Sievers filed another appeal. That's how this game goes. Thank you all for watching. Stay tuned for more videos coming soon.